Okay, Friday forecast time. Minnesota comes to town. Sean, let's first talk about last week against Illinois. Casey Thompson, his injury changed the whole complexion of that game, did it not?
Yeah, I think you really saw just how much Casey Thompson can disguise for Nebraska. When he's in the game, some of the deficiencies maybe that we saw when he wasn't in the game don't come out. But without him able to make some of the throws that Mark Whipple needs in this offense, it's a completely different offense.
It's interesting when you look at the line, the Huskers underdog by more than 2 touchdowns. When that comes out, you're saying there's no way Casey Thompson's going to play. It does look iffy that he's going to be available.
Yeah, I mean, look, I expected Nebraska to be an underdog, but what we're seeing in the point spread, I think tells you everyone is not expecting Thompson to play. Because if Thompson's healthy and plays, that line's probably closer to 7.
Yeah, single digits for sure.
It's not the third largest home underdog spread for Nebraska in history,
right.
Along with 2 other Ohio State lines.
All right, let's talk about the quarterbacks. If Thompson isn't available, and we don't expect he will be, Chubba Purdy, Logan Smothers, 2 different skill sets, and Mickey Joseph said on Tuesday, hey, you may see them both, and that's probably what we're going to see.
Yeah, I think they've got to figure out a way to use both to their advantage, and Mark Whipple's got to get on board. They got to rep them in certain situations, because there are things that Chubba can do, and there are things that Logan can do that can help Nebraska, and I think that's the job now. They've got to figure out how they can use both these guys as an advantage to help them win the game.
What did Trey Palmer learn last week?
Yeah, I think the defenses that he's going to see over this final month are a lot better than the ones that he saw the previous weeks before that, and the way he's going to get played and the physical, hands-on, man-to-man coverage. Illinois brought 5 rushers majority of the time, so that means he was locked up with a single high safety, but give Illinois a lot of credit. They played just sound textbook coverage under their defensive coordinator.
Yeah, Mickey Joseph saying that Trey Palmer probably hasn't seen this type of coverage and attention since high school. Expect that the rest of the way. All right, on the other side of the football, last week was Chase Brown. This week is Mo Ibrahim. Another tough task, and a team that loves to run the football, almost mirror images of each other's team-wise.
Yeah, I almost think Ibrahim is better than Brown. This could be his 3rd 1,000-yard season for Minnesota. He ran for 1,000 in that shortened pandemic season, and he was hurt a year ago, but he ran for 1,000 in 2019. So this is a guy that's as experienced of a 1,000-yard back as there is in the country. And you go back to a year ago before he got hurt. He was looked at to be one of the highest draft picks coming out towards the NFL, and got hurt in that opening game against Ohio State. He's come back strong and on pace for another 1,000 yards.
And quarterback-wise, another elderly quarterback, Tanner Morgan. We've been talking about this kid for years.
Yeah, I feel like Tanner Morgan's older than about half the NFL starting quarterbacks.
Right. Exactly.
You think about, he was class of 2017 high school, so he came to Minnesota when Mike Riley was still the coach of Nebraska. Maybe he got in that game for all we know in that 2017 game that Patrick O'Brien played out of Minneapolis. But yeah, it's hard to believe Morgan is still there, but it's been part of their formula. The 6-year seniors on that team. Now, they did lose Chris Altman-Bell, their star receiver, but Ibrahim and Morgan, that's a really, really good dynamic duo.
Yeah, Morgan goes back to his 5-year class reunion and said, what are you up to? It's the same thing I've been doing for 5 years. So up front, obviously, it will be decided up front, the line of scrimmage. How do you think Nebraska held up both offensively and defensively against Illinois?
I thought the defense played well enough to keep them in the game. The problem is the offense turned it over 4 times. The offense, after Ramir Johnson dropped that pass, the offense had like 30 plays from scrimmage for 36 yards the whole game, the rest of the way, like 2 quarters and change. You're just not going to win. So they've got to figure out a plan to be more productive on offense, because the defense did enough. They did get some stops when it mattered, and it just didn't matter in the end when the offense played as poorly as they did.
Yeah, Husker defense gave up a couple field goals in the second half. That should be good enough to keep you close. And you mentioned when that drop by Ramir Johnson, a couple plays later, that's when Casey Thompson gets hurt and it all went south. All right, moving forward, Mickey Joseph. This is a big game, not just for this season, but for Mickey Joseph, because you get the sense that if you drop this one, it's tough sledding the rest of the way.
Yeah, I feel like 2 things have already really started the downhill spiral. The way they lost to Illinois, but then the Thompson injury. Those 2 things, a week ago at this time, I think there was a lot of imagination thought of Joseph being Nebraska's head coach. I think a lot has changed though since then because of some of the things that have happened, particularly the injury and then now the point spreads. When you see Minnesota coming in as the third largest modern day favorite over Nebraska in Memorial Stadium, that's not a good sign.
No, you always hear that saying, Vegas knows. Well, maybe they do know something. We'll see if Vegas knows on Saturday. It's an 11 o'clock kick. It's Minnesota and Nebraska coming at you at Memorial Stadium.